Am I a fan of I'm a Fan? Yes. Idiot. I'm a Fan is the debut novel by Sheena Patel, which, at the time of recording, is on the long list for the Women's Prize. I genuinely can't imagine writing a debut novel as strong as this one. Like, wow. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's so good. I'm a professional critic. Can we get a Books and Bow quote on the back that just says this is proper good? Don't do that. Seriously though, I'm a Fan is the kind of novel that you could probably talk about, analyze, write essays about for weeks on end without stopping, like a bunch of monkeys at typewriters just typing out incredible essays about this book. It is 200 pages long and it is dense. There is so much to discuss here, so I'm gonna do my best. I'm a Fan is a novel separated into little vignette chapters that tells the story of a nameless protagonist. She's a brown British woman of Indian descent. She has a job and a boyfriend, and she lives in London, and that's pretty much all you know about her. What's really important is that she has two people in her life that she's obsessed with. One is a married man that she's currently sleeping with, who is just referred to as the man I want to be with. And the other is a very, very successful American woman that he is also sleeping with, called the woman I'm obsessed with. Her life entirely revolves around these two people. Her relationship to this man, and her anonymous online stalker relationship with this girl. The man she wants to be with is successful. He's a relatively well-known public figure of sorts. He's not happily married, but he says he's content. And his marriage is good enough, which makes it really hard for him to actually leave his wife for the at least two women that he's currently sleeping with. The woman that she's obsessed with is an American who lives in California that the man she wants to be with sleeps with whenever he goes out there. She is an influencer. She has an Instagram account, she has an online Etsy shop. Her father is a really respected and influential person who won the McCarthy Genius Grant. Grant? Grant. Grunt. I don't think I'm going to be winning it. It is called McCarthy, isn't it? Is it MacArthur? No. Probably not. Anyway, her dad's really impressive, and she's become an influencer through nepotism. Her whole life is nepotism. She's a nepo baby. When she's not cheating on her boyfriend, or doing whatever her job is, our protagonist spends all of her time online stalking this woman that she's obsessed with. She creates kind of burner Instagram accounts that allow her to stealth follow and check out and even comment on the things that she's up to. And this book is a kind of diary of sorts of all of her thoughts and feelings about this woman. You can tell that she admires her. You can also tell that she despises her. And this book highlights the idea that obsession is a complex thing. It's not always positive. Many of the chapters in this book, probably about 3/4 of them, deal with the events of her life. Her time sleeping with or going on dates with this guy. Her time lying to her boyfriend and telling us a little bit about their background and their life together. Her online activity, stalking and following and learning about this woman that she's obsessed with. But the other 25-ish% of the book is her presenting us with kind of essays on very political topics like racism, colonialism, nepotism, immigration, fame and fortune, capitalism, mental health, women's rights, queer rights, etc. She waxes on about these things quite often in the book. But rather than these things kind of coming out of left field, they're all inspired by her life, her own personal experiences, the man that she's sleeping with, the woman she's obsessed with. She talks endlessly about influencer culture. White women who pretend to champion certain rights, and it's all for publicity and clout. Everything is narcissism, everything is selfishness, everything is for personal gain, etc., etc. Most of what she says is likely something you've at least thought about. We think a lot about the cycles of capitalism, the damages that it does, the damages of religion. So many things that she covers here. But they're all talked about through the eyes, the lived experience, the opinions of this nameless protagonist. It's hard to tell if any of these are Sheena Patel's thoughts or not. They likely are, because they're spoken about with gusto and aggression, and it feels like it's her personal feelings coming through the character. Fair enough. She's the billionth author to do that. It is not a criticism for me to say that. And in fact, all fiction is just an extension of certain thoughts, feelings, experiences, politics, etc. Art is a medium of personal expression, and she really personally expresses through this book. But because you've got sort of 75% character experiences and 25% political rants, the book's very existence as a piece of fiction is quite interesting, because it feels like the lines are getting blurred. And that's a great thing. This is a very literary book. Literary fiction is political. It is thematic. Literary fiction is something that talks about specific themes, ideas, and concepts. And that's what this book is doing. But not just through what our character is talking about, thinking about, ranting about, but also what she is, what she's taking part in. She is an online stalker. She is taking part in the damaging world of internet discourse, of influencer culture. You might have heard the term hate watch. When you watch a YouTuber, a TikToker, look at the pictures of an Instagrammer that you really despise, and you take some kind of weird narcissistic joy in hating them while watching them and knowingly giving them money through ad revenue, etc. She's doing that, and it's damaging to her psyche. At one point I was reminded of that ridiculous old meme, which is a guy popping out of a well actually, and criticizing people who criticize capitalism while partaking in it. You criticize society while being in one. I'm very intelligent. I love that old meme. And I'm a Fan is going in that direction. This woman is partaking in online influencer discourse that is damaging her mental health, damaging her relationships, potentially damaging every aspect of her life, but she can't stop. She criticizes it. She talks in very beautiful personal rants about how damaging it is, about how toxic it all is, but continues to engage in it herself. She's a massive hypocrite. And that brings me on to the fact that none of the characters in this book are likable. They're all dreadful people in their own way. They're all victims in some ways, especially our protagonist, but she's also engaging with all of this stuff. She's really bad. The biggest victim is arguably her boyfriend. There's one really heartbreaking chapter where she talks about just how great her life with her boyfriend is. The things that they get up to when they're alone together, the way that they spend their time together in their apartment. They have a really happy, healthy relationship. But it's almost like she is a victim of modern day online discourse, of anonymity and what that does to us as people online, of stalker behaviour, of obsession, of influencer culture and the damage it does, of fame, and also of personal crisis. Because we watch people online succeed, we watch YouTubers and TikTokers, we read books by people, we watch TV shows and films, and so many of us think, I wish I could do that. I want to be that person, I'm jealous of them, while also intensely criticizing them and hating them because we can see how vapid they are, how fake they are. We wonder, when is this person going to get cancelled? I wonder if they have skeletons in their closet. When are they going to wrong step and make a wrong move? We hope for these things, partly through jealousy, because they have a life that we wish we could have. A life of passive income, a life of fame and fortune, and people in comments telling them how great they are. For me, this is really interesting because I have a small YouTube channel where I get a lot of compliments, and I love them. I get a lot of hate, and that hate is somehow really engaging and moreish. It works me up, it makes me angry, and I engage with it, and I shouldn't. I also watch other YouTubers and get jealous of them and wish that I had their numbers, or I wish that I had their platform, or I wish that my videos were as good as theirs. I review books by authors and wish that I was an author. I wish that I had poetry, short stories, and novels published. I just managed to get a new job as an audiobook narrator, one of my dream jobs, and I'm already wondering how long it's going to be before I start thinking, but I would like to be an author. This is also vapid, and online discourse, influencer culture, the concept of fame, all of this going back to Hollywood at the very least, it is also circular and so toxic, and it makes us miserable and short-sighted about the world that we live in and how great our own lives are, and also the fact that when we're focusing so much on ourselves, we're not affecting any kind of big change. I'm supposed to be a socialist. I should be out there protesting and rioting and getting angry. And yet so much of my time is spent wishing for bigger and better things for my fucking self. This book had me thinking about all of that constantly reflecting on my own behaviour as a YouTuber, as a writer, as a former teacher, as a person who engages in online discourse and spends too much time on social media, watching things on TikTok and YouTube, and God, it's endless. So much of this is about online discourse, but it's not a character being holier than thou, and, well, it is. She is being holier than thou, and that's kind of what's fun about it. She's doing that. She's looking down her nose at these people while hate-watching them and sleeping with them, and knowing the people that are sleeping with the people who she hates, and she's engaging with it, and it causes rifts in her relationships. It causes her to do terrible, horrible things to herself and the people around her. Basically pointing out that social media and online communities are all ultimately toxic and disgusting and lead us to express and reveal the darkest, worst, most horrible versions of ourselves. And all the while, she's also talking about really important topics of racism, colonialism, sexism, misogyny, so many really important topics that are worth listening to her about. It's funny when she talks about being a second-generation immigrant in the UK. Her parents at one point go on holiday to India, but are spending all of their time hanging out with all of these really white, homogenized, middle-aged, middle-class women that they're on this trip with. It's a really, really interesting thing to watch and think about and try to understand, especially as a white person. A British white person. God, I could go on and on and on and on and on. There is obviously a narrative. She is talking and doing things and making progress in her life, in her relationship. Things get darker, things get more difficult. There's also a lot of graphic sex in here. Just thought I'd mention that in case you don't like that. She is constantly criticizing these people and hating them. There's so much hatred, so much bile in this book. Our protagonist is constantly miserable. She's making herself miserable. The people that she's with are making her miserable. This famous influencer that she tangentially knows, because she's sleeping with the guy that the influencer is also sleeping with, doesn't know her, doesn't know she exists, and yet she's obsessing. And it's here highlighting the concept of parasocial relationships through things like YouTube and Instagram. My coffee's gotten cold. No, it's fine. Honestly, lost my train of thought completely there. There's so much to talk about with I'm a Fan. I'd also just like to mention this incredible cover. Like, it really kind of sums up the attitude of the book completely. I'm a fan, while staring, bloodshot eyes, haven't slept in days. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm a Fan is one of the best books I've read in a long time. What an incredible debut. Absolutely amazing. Really painful to read. Really makes you get introspective about your own life. And we're all going to feel introspective in different ways because some of us have lives similar to her. Some of us very much do not. Some of us barely engage in online discourse and spend time on social media. Some of us spend way too much time and are completely anonymous. Some of us have small platforms, like myself. Other people have massive platforms. And perhaps every single one of these types of people that I've just listed is going to react to this book entirely differently. And that's really, really exciting. This book is amazing. I'm a Fan is incredible. I'm so impressed. Sheena Patel is amazing. I am a very big fan of I'm a Fan. And I think I'm just going to have to stop talking or this will carry on. I will rant and ramble for hours about this book. And I probably haven't even scratched the surface, honestly. But I hugely recommend I'm a Fan. What a book. Now it's time for my Patreon book recommendation of the week. This recommendation comes from KJ, and I'm just going to read out what they've said here because there's a few quotes going on. A librarian recommended The Love We Share Without Knowing by Christopher Barzak to me a few years ago, and I was blown away by how much I loved it. The book is a collection of loosely interconnected stories set in Japan, with elements of magical realism and dealing mightily with isolation, loss, and the search for identity. Here's another reader's review that captures what I felt while reading the book. The book is hauntingly, achingly beautiful. So much of the fantasy genre is dedicated to escapism, but this book doesn't make me want to escape. It makes me want to run out and hop on a plane to halfway around the world so I can kiss a stranger in a city I've never been to before. It makes me want to embrace life in all its wonderful and terrible ways. That is from Grey Weather's review on Goodreads. I think that's a really, really interesting and important conversation when it comes to books as escapism. The idea that some books do not encourage us to escape, but rather face life head on and actually encourage us to face life in a positive way. I think that's really, really important, so I'm going to have to check this book out, see if it has the same effect on me. I love that feeling. Inspiring literature. I'm a very cynical person. I read a lot of dark things that just make me angry and reassure me that my anger is placed properly. So reading something that's more positively influential would probably do me some good, and maybe you as well. If you want to recommend me books, join my Patreon and subscribe for books.